Hey everyone, welcome to my new tutorial. October is here and you all know what that means. This will be a month of some spooky themes around, so you get your chance to prepare your, Halloween designs in advance. And today I want to make this simple stylized spooky house, and mostly I want to show you how you can use few simple techniques to quickly come up with a design like this. I really hope you will enjoy this one, and if you do, please don't forget to leave a like, it will really help me. And if you're new to the channel and you want to see more Blender tutorials and 3D related stuff, please hit that subscribe and additionally bell button if you want to get notified when I release something new. And if you're new to the world of 3D and Blender, and you want to become a 3D illustrator, go and check out my courses that are carefully designed to teach you beginner and intermediate skills in quickest and most effective way. For example, with the new Ultimate 3D bundle, you can go from simple cubic designs all the way to full character illustration in a matter of weeks. So if you're interested, please go check out the link in the description. Let's jump right into empty Blender file, and first of all I will get rid of the cube and the light. We can leave the camera as is, so let's press X and delete, and now I'll press Shift A and let's add a plane. So I want to start on the 0 coordinates here, and now tap into the edit mode and we'll extrude the first part of our house. So let's just press E to extrude something like this, and now I'll press A to select all and S then Y to scale this on Y axis a little bit. And now let's extrude once more, so let's press E again, and let's just select these two verts right there. Let's press M and merge at center, and here as well let's press M, and now we have a little house shape. So we can scale this out a little bit to make it more stylized, more cartoonish. So let's enable X-ray and let's select these points and let's press S to extrude like this, and now we can select these two vertices up top and extrude them as well. Maybe make it a little bit taller here, something like that. And now tab out of the edit mode and let's disable X-ray and let's press Shift A and let's add another plane, and I will press G then Shift Z to lock this on X and Y axis and move it somewhere here. Now tab in, I will make this a little bit smaller by pressing S and then extrude and make this larger here. So this will be like a tower, and what I'm doing right now, I'm basically just blocking out the scene and we'll get into the details later. So this is just to see whether the thing we are creating works and how it looks. So let's scale it up a little bit, and now I'll just extrude some small part here and a little bit of roof again and make this smaller. And right here you can see your proportions, and if you don't like something or you want to make some things maybe a little bit larger, you can do that here. So I just scaled the basic house shape in the object mode, so I'll press Ctrl A and apply that scale so everything works as expected. And now let's press Shift A again and I'll add another plane right here. Tap into the edit mode and scale it up. I want to create a little railing around the house, so something like this. And now I'll just select this point right here, the vertex, press X and delete vertices, so we end up with only these edges. And now if you drag selection here, there's vertex behind, we can press G then X and move it somewhere here so it starts behind the house. And now here we can just move it around, so let's press 7 on the numpad for a top view and let's just move it somewhere here, and maybe we can bring this a little bit closer. So we have a little bit of an angle here, and let's press E then Z and extrude. This will be a little bit of a fence or railing or something like this, and this is basically what I want to work with right now. And let me just select this camera and press H to hide it so it doesn't get in the way, and you can zoom out to see the silhouette a little bit better, and I really like this. So we can continue by adding a little bit more details. So the first thing I want to do is to break up the roof a little bit. I want this to look really old, and spooky, with the roof almost falling down or something like that, and I want like a visible beams there. So let's tap into the edit mode, and first of all I will select the roof. So let's go for a face select by pressing 3, by holding Shift select these two faces, and let's press P and separate by selection. That will create a new object for us, and we have now split this object into two. So with the roof selected, tap into the edit mode, and first of all I will go into the edge select, alt click these edges, press G twice to start sliding, and now hold Alt, so we are able to slide this outside just like that, and do the same for these edges right here. So press G twice and Alt and start sliding out. So let's press Ctrl R and increase the number of cuts with the mouse wheel, and we can do the same on the other side. So let's do that right here. And now let's press Ctrl R again, and let's do some of these vertical cuts just like that. And now to create the beams, I want to use the curves, but first I will need to separate them. So with these selected, I will just press P and enter to separate the selection. And since these are edges and they're part of the underlying mesh, they are basically just copied into a new object. They stay here as well, and they're in the new object. So now I will alt click this loop right here, and by holding Alt and Shift, I will add to the selection and separate these as well. Don't forget the top one. Let's press P and separate the selection. Now if you hide the roof and tab out of the edit mode, you can see these separated edges right here. And let's make it a little bit interesting by deleting some of those parts, so there are like holes in the roof, and you know, it doesn't look so uniform. So select some of these, and maybe I will delete this one. So press X and delete edges, and maybe right here we can delete this one, and you know, same on the other side, so we have some variation. Now tab out, and I will choose the vertical ones and maybe delete some of those as well. So probably maybe this one here, and let's say this one. Now I want to join these into a single object, but before I do, I want to do another separation, because I really don't want these vertices to be connected there. Now we can tab out, select both of those, and press Ctrl J to join them. Now if we right click and convert to curve, so right now with these converted to curves, we can tab out, go into the curve settings, and here choose custom profile in the geometry section. And right here you can increase the depth, so that's already an interesting mesh happening around. We can fill caps, and now if you click and drag here to create a custom profile, you can do whatever profile you like, but I want to convert this to sharp corner and just drag it all the way here, so we have something like this. And now we can play with the depth, and just by adding a simple geometry, you know, slicing it up and separating some of these edges, converting to curves, you can have a structure like this in a few easy steps. So now we can continue, and let's press Alt H to unhide that roof, and let me hide the camera again. And now with this still in place, we didn't delete it if you remember, we can just tab in, press A to select all, and press Alt S to scale it out. Let's press S for even scaling, and just slide it slightly above those beams. And now we can separate some parts here as well. So let's press 3 for face select, select this face right here, press P and separate selection. Now we can separate these two, and for example the rest of the roof, this whole chunk in the back can exist as a one piece, so let's separate that. And for example here on the other side we can do something like this, for example. So we have these separate parts, and now we can tab out and basically just delete the rest of the roof. And now we can select all of these by holding Shift and press Ctrl J. We can join them again, we don't need them separately. Now tab in, press A to select all, and press Alt E and extrude faces along normals. Let's hold S for even scaling and do extrusion like that. And now you know, you can just hover over these parts, press L to select linked, and you know, move them around a little bit so they are a little bit distributed like this. And I forgot to connect this part, so let me extrude that and connect to the rest of the roof, and I will just move it around a little bit. Okay, so that's for the roof, and now let's model the rest of the building. So let's select the tower here, and I will tab in, and with the face select active, I will just alt click this loop right here, press Alt E and extrude along normals, and let's bring this inside just like that. And we can select everything, press G then X and slide it outside a little bit so we have some more space available. And now let's add some more cuts by pressing Ctrl R and, you know, scale them out. And here we can create 2 cuts and press S to scale it down to create a roof shape like this. Maybe bring this a little bit higher. And now Ctrl R once again here and on the other side. So we can now press 3 for face select, alt click this here and press I to inset, and I once again to inset this individually, and press Alt E and extrude faces along normals, and let's bring this inside. And now with all of these still selected, we can press Shift D to duplicate them, right click to release in place, and P and enter to separate the selection again into a different object. And now we can tab out and bring in some bevel modifiers. So let's tab out, let's select just the tower or whatever object you want to bevel, for example the roof, and let's go to the modifiers panel and let's choose bevel modifier here. Let's reduce the amount like this and increase segments. Now in the geometry I want switch this to arc because I will be doing some boolean cuts, and disable clamp overlap so we can see issues. And in the shading, let's check harden normals. You will see the warning here, but we'll get rid of that in the second. And now let's just select everything here. We can deselect the fence by holding Control and make sure that the beveled object is active, that it's highlighted yellow. And now just click the arrow and choose copy to select it so you have the bevel on all objects. And now in Blender 3.3 it's really easy to do auto smooth. Before you had to go into the object data properties. Right now you can just right click and shade auto smooth, and in the auto smooth option increase to 180 degrees so the bevel can take care of the rest. And we have some sharp angle here, so let me just fix this. I will select the loop and bevel it like this so we have some smooth surface. And now let's select these windows and tab into the edit mode, press A to select all, and Alt S to scale along normals just a little bit. And here I can see some issues with the beveling, so let's reduce the amount so we don't get this weird geometry. Okay, so this is looking already a little bit better. Now let's select the house, tab into the edit mode, and I will press Alt E and extrude face along normals. Let's extrude this inside so it actually has some volume, and I will press A to select all and Shift N to recalculate normals. And that's a good habit to do when you're extruding from planar objects, so you can just press A to select everything, tab into the edit mode, press A to select all and Shift N so all your normals get recalculated. Now let's finish up with some more details. Let's press Shift A and let's add a plane. I will press G then Y to move it right here, and G then Z to move it up. Now tab in, press S to scale it down, and E to extrude. And now we can enable X-ray. Go for edge select by pressing 2. Select these two edges by holding Shift, right click and choose subdivide, so we can select this edge right there and bring it up so we have some nice, you know, vintage style window. And now go for face select, select the front face and press Shift D, right click to release, and P enter to separate into a new object. We'll make use of that later. And now tab out, select this original window object, shift click the house shape, and make sure you have a Bool Tool active. You can find the list of the add-ons I'm using in the description. It's easy, no need to download anything, you just activate them in the preferences add-on section. So be sure to have a Bool Tool active. And now I'll press Ctrl- to create a hole here. And you can see there's no bevel there because we need to move this above the bevel modifier. And now this works properly. And now it's time to select this separated object, tab into the edit mode, press G, then Y, and push it inside a little bit. And now tab out, let's press Shift D to duplicate it, tab back in, press I to inset, X to delete the face, now A to select all, and E to extrude so we have some window frame, tab out. And now by holding Shift we can select the house, and again just transfer this to select it, and select the frame, right click and shade auto smooth. This stayed at 180 degrees, so it's now very easy to do these bevels. And now let's just parent everything. So select the window plane, the frame, and the boolean cutout. And let's press Ctrl P and parent to object. And now we can Alt D to duplicate this and Shift Z to lock on X and Y axis and move it here. So we have it on the side of the building. And now with just the boolean cutout selected, we can press R, then Z and 90 degrees to rotate it. And shift click the tower and press Ctrl- again to create the boolean cut and move it above the bevel. And now we can just position this a little bit better, just like that, so we have a new window. And the rest is basically just about adding details. But before we do that, let's create that fence. So I will select this object right here, maybe make this a little bit shorter, And now let's make it a little bit more cartoonish as well. So we can just grab this endpoint here and bring it up a tiny bit, maybe here, a tiny bit down. So we have something like this. And now let's press Ctrl R and create a new cut here. Now too, for edge select, Alt Shift click this loop as well. And let's press P and separate into a new object. You can see it right here. And now let's press Ctrl R while still in the original object, and let's create few cuts right here like this, and 2 cuts right there. And again, we can add to the selection by holding Alt and Shift, and let's press P and separate into a new object. And now we can just go for vertex select by pressing 1, select all of these top vertices, press X and delete vertices. Select the top loop, press G twice, bring it down a tiny bit. Let's select all by pressing A, go for face select by pressing 3 and Alt S to scale out a little bit. Let's press S for even scaling. And now Alt E and extrude along normals like this. So we have bootstrapped some fence, and now we just need to convert these to curves, but I want to edit this a little bit before. So let's select the vertical ones. Let's go for a side view, tap into the edit mode. Let's press 1 for vertex select. Select all of these, press G twice, and by holding Alt, we can extrude them up like this. And now let's select all of these vertices, right click and choose subdivide. That will add new vertices in the middle here. Let's look from the side, select only the middle vertices, press G twice and slide them up so they touch the railing there. And now select this again, right click, subdivide, so we have some in the middle. And again, I want to select only these, but they're slanted, so I will just select them manually like this. And press G twice and slide them down, and you will see why just in the second. Now we can tab out, shift click the horizontal edges and press Ctrl J to join them, right click, convert to curve, and in the curve settings, let's just increase the depth like this. Now we can tab in, let's look from the side again, I will enable X-ray, and let's select the top control points like this, and we can press Alt S to scale them down. And now let's select these and press Alt S and scale them up. So we have some like spikes. And now we can just exit the X-ray view, and you have an easy railing just like that. Now it's all about adding some additional details, so I will be a little bit quicker here, but there's nothing you shouldn't be able to do here. So I will select the tower and basically just duplicate and separate this, select the new object, make it a little bit larger, and extrude, inset, and extrude like this. Maybe create some additional beams around. And basically I'm just doing everything that I showed you, I'm just doing it really quickly. So I'm just selecting loops, duplicating them, separating them, and then extruding them individually. Something like that. Now let's create something like this here. And if some of these reused parts are misbehaving, that might be because when you duplicate the geometry from existing object, it will get all the modifiers the original object had. So if you look here, there's a Boolean modifier from the window, so we can just remove those from these new objects. We don't really need them, of course. That's just to keep things a little bit more tidy. And now to add some additional details, you can just shift right click on the wall to place the cursor. Let's press shift A and let's add a cube. Tap in, press S to scale it down, and then S and X to scale it on X axis. And let's move it down a little bit, press G then Z and move it so the origin point is a little bit higher. And now if you tab out and switch this to face project with rotation and projection, you can press G and hold Ctrl to snap this around. And now let's just shift click some other beveled object and transfer that bevel modifier, right click and shade auto smooth, and now you have this stylized brick, and you can press Alt D, and by holding Control you can snap this around. If it's rotated like this, you can press R then Z twice to rotate it, and place around some bricks like this, so there's a hint of a texture on our building. And the same we can do for the roof, so we can shift right click to move the cursor, shift A, and let's add a plane for example. Now tab in and let's scale this down and extrude to create some kind of shingle. Now let's press A to select all, press G then Z and move it down tiny bit, again similar to the brick. Now you can tab out and again transfer the bevel modifier and shade auto smooth, and you can now just press G and by holding Control snap it around to create shingles like this, so it doesn't just look like a solid piece of roof. And now we can play with the shape of these shingles a little bit, so it's a little bit more interesting. And here you could see how you can quickly, just by blocking out some basic shape and reusing those by duplicating into a separate geometry, and then slicing them up, reusing, converting to curves, and basically just playing around, building up from that basic shape that you blocked out, how easy it is to come up with the design in a few minutes like this. Right now I'll just go ahead and do some quick lighting setup so you can see how you can bring this to life. There are some more details in the final work that I shared in the beginning with you, but there's nothing you shouldn't be able to do with the techniques I'm showing you right here. So let's bring in some background by adding a new plane, and I will scale this up. Let's press Alt H to bring the camera back in. Let's press 0 on a numpad. Let's select the camera, press G and Z twice to move it around, and I will choose some different resolution here and try to position this a little bit better. And now I'll select the background and just scale it out to fill the scene. Now let's go to the render settings, and I'll switch to the cycles and GPU, enable some denoising, and press Ctrl B to limit the rendering only for the viewport. And now let's preview the rendered view. Okay, that looks fine, so let's go to the material preview, and I will create some materials, very basic ones, and I will keep the palette quite simple because mostly I want to influence the colors with lighting here. So I will just choose some darker bluish violet tone like that, and increase the roughness, maybe not so dark, and then choose something different here. Let's increase the roughness and let's give this some color like this. Okay, and now I want to work with tones, so let's select these beams, and I will select some of these materials, duplicate them, and just make them a little bit darker so they're clearly differentiated from the original materials. And I will do the same here, so let's select this material there, let's duplicate it and make it darker, and here we can make this even darker. Okay, let's select the roof. Now let's give some material to those bricks and the window frames as well. Now let's select these window planes. Let's create a new material and let's choose emission and something really strong like 20. We'll see how it goes, and maybe some greenish tone will be just fine. Let's select the fence. Let's give it some materials. And now the background, I want it all black, full roughness, and let's set the same emission for the windows here as well. And let's now preview our result. This already looks a little bit better, mostly because of that emission, but we can have a lot of fun with lighting. So let's snap cursor to world origin by holding Shift S, and let's press Shift A, and let's add light, area light. I will just press G then Z and bring it up. And now let's switch this to 3D cursor, and I will press R, then X and minus 45 degrees, and then R, then Z, and rotate it like that around our scene, and bring it really high, like 3000 watts or something like that, and give this a blue tint. So there are these reflections in the back, and now we can press Shift D and rotate this to the side. Press R, then X twice to bring it a little bit lower and increase the size and reduce this to, I don't know, 1500. And let's have some fun with the colors. This can be like violet. And on the other side, to support that spooky theme, we can create like a green light. And this violet and green combination looks really great on the designs like this. And now go into the world color and let's give this all a little bit of that violet or blue tone. And to give this a little bit more spark, we can add some point light in the back here, like this, and bring it really high up, let's say 5000, and give this like a violet color or something like a dark blue. And then, you know, we can duplicate this light and bring it inside the house so it kind of matches the window light. Okay, I really like this. And to support the spookiness, we can just press Shift A, add a cube, tap into the edit mode, make it really large like this so it engulfs the whole scene. And now in the materials, let's create a new material. Let's remove the surface shader and let's create principled volume shader in the volume section, and let's bring down the density to something like 0.015 to have some fog. And now in the render settings, we can go color management, set some high contrast option and play, you know, with the exposure. So that's your spooky house here, and if you create your own designs using this tutorial and you share it somewhere, I would really love to see that. So if you're sharing, for example, on Instagram, please mention me in the description, and I would love to see that. Maybe share it with our community. I really hope you enjoyed this one, and if you did, please leave that like. And again, if you're new around here, please hit that subscribe. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.